Hello dear students, welcome to this lecture of Strategic Human Resource Management, and the topic which we are going to discuss today is Expatriates Selection. I am Dr. Tripti Barthwal, I am Director, Lal Bahadur Shastri Institute of Management and Development Studies, Lucknow. Now, in this series of lectures of Strategic Human Resource Management, we have been discussing a lot about the importance of human resource management in achieving the strategic objectives of the organization. And one of the strategic objectives of the organization is expansion through going international. So, when a company goes international, then there are certain issues related to HR which become very pertinent, very important, because it is ultimately the people who are going to work for the organization wherever that organization is, whether it is based in the home country or it is based in the foreign country. So, that is how the concept of expatriates becomes very significant. So, we will discuss about that today. An expatriate or expat is an individual living and or working in a country other than his or her country of citizenship, often temporarily and for work reasons. So, there are few things which you need to take into consideration in this definition, is that an expatriate is a person or an individual or an employee who is working in some other, who is living working in a country other than his or own country of citizenship, and this is generally temporarily. Later on, it can be for a very long period of time, and then it can be a permanent kind of an assignment, but initially people are generally sent for a temporary assignment. And the reason for sending them to a foreign location is for work reasons, then only a person is called an expatriate. As more companies expand globally, they are relying on expatriates to manage their global operations. Selecting the right person, preparing the expat and the family, measuring the employee's performance from afar, and repatriating the individual at the end of an assignment require a well planned program. So, this is specifically the reason that we require so much of emphasis on as an HR student or an HR professional, why should we focus so much on expatriates? Because you require a proper planning before sending the people to the foreign location, to the foreign assignment, and then how you will manage their performance from such a long distance kind of a relationship. And then obviously when the assignment is over, because we have already discussed that it is generally temporary in nature. So, when the assignment is over, then how will you bring back that person? That also has to be planned. Now, according to KPMG's Global Assignment Policies and Practices Survey in 2016, 83% of employers surveyed offer short term assignments, that is less than 12 months, 97% offer long term assignments, that is 1 to 5 years, and 61% offer permanent transfers of indefinite length transfers, where the time period is not specified for how long the person is going to stay in the foreign land. So, you have generally kind of three types of foreign assignments which are given to employees: the short term, then the long term, and then the permanent or indefinite kind of thing. So, different types of plannings may be required for different assignments. Now, it is very important in HR to select the right person for the right place. So, here also in terms of expatriate selection, we may have one or two, we require one or two people to be sent abroad, but who should be those 2-3 people? Right, we have we have 15 people who can fill up that vacancy, but who are those people whom we will select, we will send. So, there has to be a proper process in place for the selection of the right expatriates. So, research points to 3 major attributes of successful expatriates. First is the intellectual capital. Obviously, you know, for whatever work, whatever responsibility the company is assigning that person to a foreign assignment, that person should be technically, conceptually sound in that area. So, intellectual capital is very, very important. Knowledge, skills, understanding and cognitive complexity, this has to be assessed. Then psychological capital. It is not merely that only knowledge will be enough. Psychological capital has also been to assess, that is the ability to function successfully in the host country through internal acceptance of different cultures and a strong desire to learn from new experiences. So, this is also very important because the person may be very good in terms of knowledge, but he may not be so good in terms of you know, adapting to the new culture, because human beings, as human beings, we not merely have to you know, work with our intellectual capacities, we also have to have a good you know, working relationship in the organization, otherwise we tend to get demotivated. So, their psychological capital plays a very important part. And then social capital, that is, you know, how the person is able to build trusting relationships with local stakeholders, whether they are employees, supply chain partners or customers. So, during his working, how good networking that person can create, that is also very important. So, the organization will have a selection process in place which kind of judges these, whether how, to what extent these qualities are present in the person, whether they are not there in the person, if they are there, then what is the degree to which they are present. So, everything has to be assessed. So, selection process. In the compressed time frame of an international assignment, expatriates have little opportunity to learn after they reach. So, they must be screened properly before they are sent. So, because expatriate failure rate is also quite high, and it costs the companies huge amounts of money when, you know, somebody who is sent for a foreign assignment is not able to do justice with that assignment, or he is not able to adapt with the new culture, and you know, everything goes haywire, all plannings are disturbed. So, it is very important to beforehand screen the person whom we are sending. And how do we screen? So, what the mistake organizations were doing initially was that the organizations only assessed the technical or job related skills that was considered as a main criteria for selecting candidates for overseas assignments, but assessing other skills is equally important for successful international assignments. We have just seen in the earlier slide that, you know, besides the intellectual capital, the psychological capital and the social capital also has to be assessed. So, how does the organization go about doing that? So, these include, first is self orientation. One has to judge, or one has to kind of measure, assess the self orientation dimension of the person. This dimension includes expatriate self esteem, self confidence and mental well being. See, to a large extent our ability to adapt to new things, or our ability to perform or learn new things also depends upon how much high is my self esteem, or how high is my self confidence. So, or how mentally strong the person is. So, an organization has to check or has to assess the degree of self orientation of the person before sending that person to an overseas assignment. Then the second dimension which needs to be checked is others orientation. That is, you know, this dimension enhances the expatriates' ability to interact effectively with host country nationals. So, how well you can connect with the people who do not belong to your culture, or whom you are meeting for the first time, who are new to you. So, how well the expatriate or the would be expatriate is able to connect will also determine that his success in the assignment. Then the third is perceptual ability. This is the ability to understand why the people of other countries behave the way they do. That is the ability to empathize. Now this is very, very important because the first thing the expatriate will face in going to a foreign country is the culture shock. And what is the culture shock? That is the difference in the culture of his home country and the foreign country, and he may not be able to adjust, because if the cultures are too much contrasting with each other, there is a lot of difference between the two cultures. In that case, it will be very difficult for him to adjust. So, adjustment will be enhanced when the perceptual ability of the person is high. So, we would like to send such people to international assignments whose perceptual ability is high. That is, they are not judging the people of the other country, or they are not doubting, or they are not questioning why the people of other country are behaving in such a weird way or such a different way from their own country. They will have the ability to understand that because they come from a different cultural background, their behavior, their understandings of the things will be different from us. Well adjusted expatriates tend to be non-judgmental and non-evaluating in interpreting the behavior of host country nationals, and willing to be more flexible in their management style, which is very much required. Now, to a great extent, the success of every expatriate in achieving the company's goals in the host country hinges on that person's ability to influence individuals, groups and organizations that have a different cultural perspectives. And that is why assessment of perceptual ability is very, very important, because we have said that the success of every expatriate to a great extent depends on how well he is able or she is able to achieve the company's goals in the foreign country, and the ability to influence individuals, groups and organizations that have a different culture from our own culture. Now, HR can elicit relevant information on assignment successes and challenges by means of targeted interview questions with career expatriates such as the following. So, before you are selecting people, one very good way of selecting them and to get relevant experience on relevant data on training future expatriates is by asking the following questions, which we are going to discuss now. So, these when we ask these questions as an HR manager, what does it help? It helps in not only getting relevant information for the next time when we are preparing expatriates, but it also helps us to choose the right person for the current international assignment. How many expatriates assignments have you completed? What difficulties did you experience adjusting to previous international assignments, and how did you overcome them? So, this helps us to come to know that what can be the troubles which can be lying ahead for the expatriates which you are sending this time, and how we can prepare them in a better way to handle these challenges. On your last assignment, what factors made your adjustment to the new environment easier? What experiences made interacting with locals easier? Was the success or failure of your assignments measured by your employers? If so, how did they measure? So, this can be relevant for employees who are new to your organization, but they have worked for international assignments in their previous organizations. Why do you wish to be assigned to an international position? So, as I said, these questions can be very, very relevant, can help us to not only get the relevant information when we are sending expatriates, that is on what areas we need to prepare them, but it also helps us to kind of identify who would be the right people to send for international assignments. Then a very important part in sending expatriates abroad is securing visas. Once an individual is chosen for an assignment, the organization needs to move quickly to secure the necessary visas. I'm sure you know what visa is. It's a kind of a permission to travel to a foreign country, which is issued by that country. Requirements and processing times vary by country. Visa, what are the papers you need to submit, whether you require a visa or not, and whether for how many days that visa will be valid. This will all depend from country to country. So, as an HR manager, one has to be aware about those norms also, and in case if you cannot keep a tab on all the norms which keep on changing from time to time, then you should have those people in your contacts who can help you with these current information. Employers start by contacting the host country's consulate or embassy for information on visa requirements. Following is a list of generic visa types that may be required depending on the nature of business to be conducted in a particular country. So, there will be different types of visas depending on for what purpose the employee is being sent. A work permit authorizes paid employment in a country. So, when you are sending a person abroad, then you have to secure a work permit for it. A work visa authorizes entry into a country to take up a paid employment. So, for example, somebody does not have an assignment, but wants to go for interviews and then for selection to a foreign country, then he will be issued a work visa. Then a dependent visa permits family members to accompany or join employees in the country of assignment. So, this is also quite important from the HR perspective, because many times when an individual takes up an international assignment, he would also like his family to move along with him, and in that case dependent visa also has to be procured. And a multiple entry visa permits multiple entries into a country. Generally, visa is just one time valid for entry, but some countries which issue multiple visas, that means you can enter in a particular span of time for which the visa has been issued, you can enter that country multiple times. Then training of expatriate employees. This is very important because as I said, expatriates can fail also in foreign assignments. So, we have to make them make them aware of what lies for them in the foreign country, and we have to train them accordingly. And we have already discussed that in the short span of time, when the person reaches there, immediately has to start working, he has to start performing. So, there isn't any time to train him or to acclimatize him according to the new conditions. So, it is better that we train him, we inform him, we help him with all the relevant information before he moves to the foreign country. Once an expatriate is selected, pre-departure training will make the expatriate more successful. Training is generally imparted in the following three areas. First is cultural training, because again and again we are emphasizing the importance of if the person faces a cultural shock, then there are full chances of failure of the expatriate and loss to the organization. So, it is very important that the person does not face a culture shock. So, in that case cultural training is very, very important. A well designed cultural training program can be extremely helpful, as it seeks to foster an appreciation of the host country's culture so that the expatriates behave accordingly. In the Middle East, emphasis is placed on personal relationships, trust and respect, coupled with an emphasis on religion that permeates every aspect of life. So, if the employee who is moving to a foreign assignment is not aware of this, and if he moves to Middle East, then he may face a lot of problems, right. And these culture and customs are not like laws that you read them, you go through them and you come to know about them. This is a process of this has been developed over a long period of time, and it can be only understood by experience and observation. So, that there is no time for experience or observation. So, that has to be informed to the employee much beforehand he moves to the foreign assignment. Another example of a Middle Eastern cultural difference, it is considered impolite in the Middle East to show the bottom of your shoe or foot. Therefore, crossing one's legs in the Middle East is impolite, as your host or guest would see the bottom of your shoe or foot. So, any person who may be going from USA, or you may be even going from India, may not, if he is or she is not aware of this cultural difference, he may very naturally sit cross-legged, and in that process his foot or her foot or the sole of the shoe may be visible, and which may be considered impolite in the Middle East, and unknowingly he may do something wrong, which can have lot of repercussions, negative repercussions on the company. Then the second is obviously language training, because language is the means of communication, is the means of transmitting your ideas to the other person. So, if and the language causes a lot of barriers, semantic barriers, you must have studied. So, if people are not aware of each other's language or the context in which words are used, it can also lead to disasters. Though English is the language of the world business, it is quite impossible to conduct business all over the world using only English. That is for sure. It is used widely, but that does not mean that every person in every corner of the world knows English, understands English, or wants to do business in the English language. An exclusive reliance on English diminishes an expatriate's manager's ability to interact with host country nationals. So, if the expatriate manager is relying that on the English language only, that okay, anywhere in the world I go, English will be understood by the people, then that may be a fallacy. It may be a mistake which can cost a lot. For example, the French would prefer to use their national language, particularly in France. If an expatriate is assigned to France, French language lessons would probably make him or her more successful. The language lessons should also be provided to the expatriate's family at no cost to the expatriate. So, not only the expatriate, but the family, because the children will be going to school or college, the spouse, she may be, if she is a working female, then in that case she would also require, or maybe even if she is not working, then in that case she will be managing the house, she will be going out shopping. So, there can be chances of mistakes. So, all the entire family at no extra cost should be trained in the new language. At least the basic nuances of the language should be taught to the employees. And obviously, the third is the practical training, because we have discussed that how important it is to perform on a foreign assignment, and how important the intellectual capital is in selecting expatriates. So, practical training, apart from practical training here does not mean that we have to give job related training. That is there, but if that is also there for the employees who are working in the home country also. So, you have to give them job skills related training. So, how is practical training important? Practical training is a training which helps the expatriate and his family to deal with day to day affairs in the foreign land. That is very important. That what kind of, let's say milk is available, bread is available, from where you can procure vegetables. So, every day, from how will you go for admission of your child, all these small little things which are very important. So, in order to lead a normal comfortable life in the foreign land. So, that is practical training. It is aimed at helping the expatriate manager and family adapt themselves into day to day life in the host country. Then another part of expatriate management is the role which the HR plays in deciding the compensation and benefits, because this is again very tricky, a very complicated thing. Developing international compensation policies require that it is consistent with the overall corporate strategy of a global corporation. cost of living allowance, which is in short called COLA, also needs to be determined, because the cost of living will be different in different countries. So, if the person is being moved from, let us say, India to USA, then what will be the cost of living? Here he was drawing some dearness allowance. What will be the dearness allowance there? So, that has to be taken care of. Another cost that must be for this housing, entertainment and food cost must be considered when you are calculating the COLA. Another cost that should be considered is education cost for children, because children will leave their schools in their home country, they will move to a foreign country. So, new set of rules and regulations there, admission fees, uniforms, books, etc., everything will involve cost. So, that also when we are selecting expatriates, then their compensation when we are working out, then we have to take that also into consideration. The spouse may also decide to attend school at the foreign location to fill in any gap in the employment record she may be encountering to her husband's because of her husband's foreign posting. So, that also has to be taken care of, because the spouse, she may be working in India, but once she moves to America, she may not be able to work. So, if she decides to attend some certificate course or some she wants to continue her studies, then what will happen? Who will pay for that cost? Care should be exercised in the selection of schools, both for the children and for the spouse, as the accreditation of the foreign school will not be acceptable in the home country. So, in order to maintain continuity, it is also very important not to just select a good school, but a school whose results and whose credentials will be accepted when these people move back to their home country. Taxation is also a concern for expatriate personnel. Some form of tax equalization should be provided to the expatriate employees, because income tax rules will be different for different countries. So, that also has to be considered in compensation and benefits. So, finally certain points which the HR manager has to remember when dealing with expatriates: address the employee's needs to develop language fluency in the international assignment, offer psychological screening to assess readiness for an international assignment, including an individual's openness to having an international experience, provide strong support before and during the assignment, including clear expectations about the employee's roles and performance, and giving feedback and assistance. Provide the employee with a self-assessment tool prior to the international assignment to help set realistic expectations for adjusting to the home country, and provides a mentor in the host country. A former, current or more experienced expatriate to offer an insider's perspective can be especially helpful. So, this kind of is a very helpful thing, because if somebody already is working in an international assignment in the same country, then he can be made the mentor of this new expatriate, and he should be allowed to take suggestions, guidance and advice from this mentor. So, I think and I hope that you have been able to understand the concept of expatriates and expatriate selection, and how HR plays an important role in this. Thank you.